Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Jody Woodhelm, and I'm here with Scott Newgent, and we're going to hear his testimony. He's going to share his story um, about his transition and his experience with transitioning. He has been so gracious to share his time today, but also he actually came to Jefferson City, to the Capitol, a few weeks ago to testify in our Senate hearing on the SAFE Act. And for those of you who may not know, or this is new information, the SAFE Act is a bill here in Jefferson City where it would ban puberty blockers, hormones, and gender transition surgery for our children under 18. And, this is a very sensitive topic and we understand that, but our position is that we need to keep our children safe. And we are hoping to see the SAFE Act pass. It is supposed to come up on the Senate floor today for
God.
debate and it's supposed to happen today for debate and perfection. But it was also supposed to happen last week and they decided to lay it over. So we'll see what happens. And I'm just thankful that today Scott had time to join me on to share his story, to share more about, he was actually pulled out of that Senate committee hearing. So he didn't actually get to finish sharing all that he could have at that time. So I want to afford him the opportunity to do that here, and then we can share the message, out on the internet. So Scott, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'm just going to give you the floor and let you share your heart, share your story. We want to know, we want to hear it from somebody who's experienced this. So just go ahead and share your heart.
Sure. What you forgot that I got kicked out of the hearing, by the way.
That's right. You did.
And I actually have a video on it of kind of what happened with that. I'll share my story, but before I do so, one of the things in that whole kind of giving testimony is pretty spot on for the whole debate, which is that people really don't want to hear the truth, because the truth is so absurd and it's so damaging to children, and there's very few political issues that are black and white. There's usually kind of somewhere in the gray area, right? And yeah, and so here on the right and here on the left, we usually have the evangelicals, which you guys are, which is great, and then we've got the the gays and lesbians over here on this side. Now, unfortunately, we balance society out together, and how we do that is we hold each other accountable for just making sure that we go through and maintain on the gray area. But the left side, our side, the gay and lesbian side, has just absolutely made it. It's made it impossible for anybody to speak but them, and society's so scared to say anything or be anti, gay and lesbian, or be anti-trans, or be whatever, that these headlines are just kind of going through. And so, we're only hearing from one side, and that's why it's tipping from that. So that's the reason why I got kicked out, is when Senator Moon was speaking about those bills, the Senator Razor, which is a homosexual, yeah, he just wanted to make it about like who he has sex with. Nobody cares. This is about trans and kids, and this whole debate is such a puzzle piece, and it's so hard to put together. And the hardest thing to do is to explain to people how wrong it is. And that's one of the ways I think I can help with the idea that, I have 3 kids at the age that they're medically transitioning children. I am a lesbian that medically transitioned due to homophobia, and there's a lot of people that do so. I also had kind of the opportunity that, I've had an opportunity to be around kind of evangelicals and Christians and stuff. And for me, it's okay if we disagree on stuff. It's not okay if you want to take my rights away, or I want to take your rights away, or whatever. But opinion should be something that we should all should give. So that gives me a different kind of perspective. So here's the reason why I'm against medically transitioning children. And quite frankly, I kind of am for adults too, but with some parameters around that. So here's the thing: medical transition is an experimental process. And I'm not speaking with emotion. I'm not speaking with, I want it to be or I don't want it to be. It's just the truth. And when I medically transitioned, without going into detail, I almost died. I mean, it seriously almost took my life without drama or anything. And so I had to investigate what was going on with me, because I found out real quickly that nobody knew what was happening to me. I kept getting infection after infection, and I lost my job, lost all this, lost that. And I had to do the research because I lost my insurance. My trans surgeon wouldn't help me. The state I was in, none of the doctors knew what the hell to do with me. So I had to go outside the state to find somebody to kind of figure out what was going on. So it kind of pushed me with learning about medical transition. And, every kind of stone I unturned, it was kind of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Do people know this? Do people know this? Do people know this? And there was a small group of people that did know this. But unfortunately, the way that they got that information out, it wasn't good. It was more like fact stuff. This whole debate, the way you pull this apart is not by fact puking. It's about emotion. And it's one of the reasons why I allowed myself to go to that place in What Is a Woman, because that's the only way you're going to get somebody that's on the fence to listen to you for a couple of minutes. So that's my story. So as I investigated medical transition, I found some pretty scary truths. The first truth, as I said, is it is entirely experimental, except for breast augmentation or top surgery, that kind of stuff. They don't tell you that, number one. Number two, the damage that these surgeries are causing is tremendous. Unfortunately, there are a lot of young people getting it. There are a lot of people that are just embarrassed for doing so. And so they keep quiet. And I'm just not that person. So it's the reason why I'm talking about it. So the first thing is experiment, right? It's 95% experimental. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had in Missouri, we had that whistleblower come out, right? That talked about the gender clinic in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. I don't get shocked very often within this debate, but reading that and understanding that, I mean, I thought it was experimental. It's actually worse than experimental, which is they're not even following any studies, following anybody, following this, following that. I mean, they're just kind of throwing them out into the prairie and just go, yeah, give it a try. And so what the population doesn't know, but people don't know, is that when you medically transition these children, when you start on puberty blockers, fact, puberty blockers are causing early onset osteoporosis. It's causing, hearts and lungs the size of 12-year-olds at 20, never to grow to, full. It's causing pulmonary embolisms, which I did. I had a stress heart attack from it. It's causing so many things. And that's just puberty blockers. Cross-sex hormones, any cross-sex hormone that anybody gets on at that young of an age, I mean, you can cut 10 to 15 years off their life. And this is not stuff that I'm wanting to be true. I'm trying to make you believe it. It's the truth. Go to my website, trevoices.org, and you'll see all of the reality of what I'm telling you. So as I started to uncover this, as I started to get and feel better, every rock I unturned was just like a holy bleep, 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 bleep. It was just, I can't believe what's going on. And so, from that perspective, so this is experimental. But if it is life-saving, as they say that they are, cutting 10 to 15 years off of somebody's life that will be, absolutely miserable for life, or this is going to help them be, better, minus 15 years, that's a gray area, right? And when I found out that, first of all, they don't study these children, they don't know what's going to happen with them. When I found out that all 7 studies that they are still using in gender clinics today are studies that have either been modified with oops, we're sorry, it doesn't fix anything, our bad, or not enough time has gone by. Now, these are the same pamphlets that are being handed to parents that, on this day. So think about that all 7 studies that said that it was beneficial have been retracted or modified. So basically, throw that out the door, right? And then we have, the better have a son, a daughter than a dead son and all that kind of stuff. That's emotional hostage. I mean, I don't know what parent would hear that and see all those, awards and all their education behind the therapist. And, a therapist says that. I don't know very many parents that are going to go, we're going to accept death. But thank you. Send me your bill. We're going to go get, Junior a coffin. I mean, what do you do,
Right.
at that point as a,
Right. And how pervasive, Scott, how pervasive do you think that is? That truly very concerned parents who are dealing with a child, a teenager who is struggling, sometimes I think with multiple issues at the same time. And, suddenly find themselves either in a counselor's office or in a doctor's office, trying to figure out the best thing to do. How often do you think this is really happening, that these professionals are taking advantage of truly not only vulnerable children, but grown-ups?
Well, I think a lot. They're doing it a lot, and it happened to me, and it happens to most people. It's kind of like a social contagion. But here's the thing, I do think that most people are decent human beings. And I think the people that are doing this, the therapists, the doctors, the this and that, one thing that I've learned over 4.5 years with this is that, doctors don't know as much as you think that they do. They don't have time to read all studies or pull all this stuff apart. They just kind of go with, what's sent at headlines, just like everybody else. It's safe.
Right.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I have to affirm, and not really digging deep into that. So I do think that it's happening all the time. I don't think it's intentional. I do think there are, some, and I'm not a Christian, but evil. I mean, I really feel that but it's kind of at the top. But the thing that really is so shocking with this is when I found out that there's only one long-term study that followed medically transgender adults. And it was a 30-year study that was done in Sweden. Sweden is the leading country for the medicalization of human beings, period. Gender, health, whatever you want to call it. And in that study that was done from 1973 to 2003, it was about 324 trans they followed. They found out that, they are really suicidal before, and then they decide to medically transition. And there is a point of euphoria for a couple of years, and I'll explain why. And then as the process goes, you get to the end, and about 7 years later, that is the peak of suicidal ideation. And what that means is that, we have these kids that say they're going to kill themselves so we don't medically transition. So they're mentally not stable, first of all. Second of all, we're taking that child and we're giving them kind of like a candy for a couple of years to shut them up. It's kind of like we're sitting in front of the TV for a couple of years because they think that it's going to fix, right? So, they're doing the lazy parenting without even knowing. And then 7 years later, this child that had you have to have some, kind of, cookies gone from the cookie jar. Me too. I mean, we're all not perfect, but we're going to take this child, and in 7 years, we're going to make them the highest point of suicide 7 to 10 years after they medically transition. And we're getting close to that point, right? It's the reason why we're seeing all the detransitioners. It's the reason why the kind of carnage is starting to spill over, because we're going into that time frame. So what's happening, whether or not you agree with me, don't agree with me, it's fine. It's the truth. We are medically transitioning the children, all the children, and I have 3 kids, and if you have this type of kid, it's the type of child that doesn't fit in, that is so special, that has so many gifts, but those gifts make it so they kind of walk through the hall alone. Those gifts are the ones where, they kind of laugh or whatever, or they don't get, to the birthday party, that kind of stuff. So it's the kids that are mentally gifted, the really smart, especially the girls, because unfortunately, in our society, we have not learned how to lift women to the point of, having them have self-esteem while still being a woman, all that kind of stuff. So it's really smart girls. It is really smart boys, though, too. It is children that have autism, and this is at a crazy level. It is children that have same-sex attraction. It is children that have issues at home. It's children that have traumas. So just think of the core of this human being. Any child that says that they're medically transitioned, what people need to automatically think is, oh God, this child's not doing well in life. Not transitioning into life well, not,
Right.
So it's a candy that they're giving these children for a little bit of time. So that is what's happening. So if you go back on that and you think to yourself, well, why would the medical industry do that? The medical industry would do that, in my opinion, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, of course, money. The second reason is that we have gotten into a society where we have a war mentality, right? And so unfortunately, on your side, the evangelical side, you guys aren't in power right now. You know, the power has lifted, and it was that way 50 years ago. And either way is wrong, right? Because we have to balance out. So now we have a society where nobody is there to question the rainbow. And unfortunately, this whole debate, to pull this apart and get people to understand, and I tell this to people and they get really upset with me, but I've been doing this for 4.5 years. Everything I touch is successful. Everything that I don't touch, some of them are successful, most of them are not. It's the way that it's approached. You have to lift the rainbow to fight the rainbow. And that's one of the reasons why I did that to Razor in the courtroom. I wanted to let him know, and I wanted to let everybody else know that, hey, this dude doesn't represent the rainbow. This dude is basically thinking that this is his time to go down in history as saving. Unfortunately, he doesn't know what's going on. So those are the children that are being medically transitioned. So with that being said, if you have one of those kids, and believe me, if you do, you guys are shaking your head going, yeah, I have that kid. You know that child is so special. You know that child is having a hard time going through adolescence. And when you medically transition, the truth is that if you take a male that medically transitioned, the male is in puberty, is starting to kind of, you know, testosterone levels are going up, right? Estrogen goes up huge. You know, puberty for girls is like in a 2 or 3 year period that's supercharged. Boys have over 10 years. And it's the reason why women or girls are a little bit more emotional, a little bit more unstable during puberty, because, you know, boys, their testosterone goes like this, you know, for a long period of time. Girls like this. Boom. And so it's true. It's the reason why girls kind of freak out, and we need, and I know this now after studying all this, you know, girls have a hard time with puberty for a reason, not because they're, you know, not as strong, or actually probably stronger, because it takes 10 years for what girls to do for a couple of years. But those are kind of shifts in hormones, right? So it's a difference where we have to figure out how to walk in the world with those hormones. Well, medical transitioning, what it does is, if we take a girl that's on estrogen, that's having a hard time anyway, she just went boom, you know, she's right there at the top. She's a child that doesn't fit in. She's found out this, you know, this will make her fit in. The doctors don't just give these kids a little bit of cross-sex hormones to balance this out, to basically take a girl that has an estrogen-driven body and make it, you know, a testosterone-driven body. You can't just give little bits. You know, you have to give huge amounts to overtake this and make this fall. And so we're taking these children that are suicidal, aren't doing well, are different. We're telling them that this is going to save their life. And then we are overdosing them with hormones that will cause them a major health issues in the future. We are making them more suicidal. They just came out with a study a couple of weeks ago. I mean, this stuff is wild to me, but there was a study that just came out that said it was beneficial for medical transition in 2022. It was just modified. And one other thing that they found was that in this small study, and they always keep it around 2 or 3 years, right? Because we're talking about the, you know, the kind of candy, giving a candy to a kid, which is going to be 1 to about 4 years, right? So those studies are all around this time frame, which that I think is evil. But we're taking these children at that time, and we're kind of overdosing them with these hormones, and we think that they're going to be okay. This study that they just came out and modified, one of the things that they found in the study, in a very small study, was that 2 children committed suicide while in that study, while being medically transitioned. Now, tell me, how many children do you know that have killed themselves because they weren't able to medically transition? Not many. So the severity of what is happening is beyond just any kind of political space. It's the reason why I tell people that this is not an issue for you to get into if you're trying to lift yourself as a politician or as a social media climber, because right now in that industry, you have to stay within your circle of beliefs, whether or not you believe it or not. You know, evangelicals have certain things that they have to believe. And I'm not saying my opinion on anything, but, you know, evangelicals have to believe in Jesus Christ. Evangelicals have to be against, you know, abortion. And, you know, you have these lists of things. And conservatives has this list of things. And liberals have these lists. Everybody has a list of things, right? So to support somebody in the middle, and it's the reason why I work with everybody, is so hard to do. So we have to lay down the fact that we don't agree on some things. We need to adult a little bit better. And once we get that whole circle around, that's when people are able to see this for what it is. And we're able to get those facts across. You know, like in Sweden just shut down all medical transition. The leading industry, all medically transitioning children, is done, gone, capped. And they found that girls' spines aren't fusing together. You've ever seen a 90-year-old walk? There's girls that are walking like they're 90 years old, and they won't live past 30. And listen, I've been doing this for so long, and if I was in this for money or fame or whatever, I would have done it completely different. But I do what I do and the way that I do. And, you know, I've gotten banned 6 times on Twitter. So I've gotten kicked off, you know, Facebook 42 times, you know, 6 times off of Twitter. I just got kicked off of something else. And if I would show you the things that I got kicked off on, you guys would think it was a joke. It was a joke.
Right.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sure.
We are basically not telling people the truth. So what I try to do is give people confidence, give people what they need to speak about this as not being an issue that's black or white. There is no middle with this, none whatsoever.
Right. So, Scott, tell us this. What are you seeing? Because I know politically speaking here in Jefferson City, you know, what's happening with the SAFE Act, how that's moving and the things that are going on. And I know that inside this building, our legislators love to talk a lot about, well, what other states are doing. When they don't know what to do, a lot of times they like to point at other states and say, well, you know, Nebraska did this, Arizona did this, whatever. So you have been connected to a lot of different areas. So can you share a little bit about what is actually happening in some other places?
Yeah, so this bill, this SAFE Act or Let Them Grow or whatever, was written about 4.5 years ago by a politician by the name of Fred Deutsch in South Dakota. I was part of that, helping him write that. I was you know, with the first bill that kind of came through. We actually were 2 votes away from getting that passed 5 years ago, by the way. That guy was brilliant, but I say that because he listened to me, did everything I said from a strategic standpoint. But anyways, a heck of a nice guy. And so since then, we have had so many states bring this up, and so many states have kind of been, you know, kicked off and has not had it passed. So the first person to get this passed was Robin Lundstrom in Arkansas. She's brilliant. She knows how to rough and smooth. She knows how to work with everybody, and she knows how to give a little bit before taking a little bit and removing her faith from the conversation, not from what she's doing, but she pulls that out whenever she's talking about it, because you can't talk about that in any gay issues and get anybody to listen on the fence. If you bring that up, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And she did that very, very well. So Arkansas was the first one to get passed. Now that is getting ready to be, that was appeal. So it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court here pretty soon. So I'll help with that. Same thing with Australia. I'm doing that as well. So we have had Tennessee that just passed, all, you know, it's done, gone, banned. We have Mississippi that just passed. We had South Dakota that passed. We have had Utah that has passed. I know I'm missing a couple. I don't have my list in front of me, but we have had
so
a bunch.
These?
Go ahead.
Well, are these states, because I know one of the things that they've talked about here is that, you know, would we give up the issue with the puberty blockers and the hormones and let those slide, but just ban the surgery? So are these other states, you know, also banning the drugs as well as surgery? And why
Yes,
do
they
you
are.
feel like, I mean, we've already talked about why that's really important to the health
Yeah.
of these children.
Yeah, and there Utah has a very weak bill that was passed. Arkansas is bulletproof, man. That girl's got balls, let me tell you. No pun intended.
Yeah.
So
And she
most
came here last session. Last year, she came here. We worked with her. But unfortunately, the Speaker of the House last year, Dean Plucker, he wouldn't even let that bill come up to committee hearing until the last week of session. So there was absolutely no movement with it last session whatsoever. So we've at least made progress this year, but you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens
puberty
today in the
blockers,
Senate.
puberty blockers are worse than the surgeries. Puberty blockers are worse. Did you just hear me say that? Puberty blockers are worse than the surgeries. So I wouldn't take puberty blockers off for nothing. Puberty blockers, there's 10,000 complaints against Lupron for children that have taken this with precocious puberty. Major complications. Lupron is a pharmaceutical company that makes puberty blockers. They were sued and deemed a criminal enterprise in the United States for false advertising and bribery in 2003 for puberty blockers, basically for lying and telling stuff. They paid $874 million like it was nothing, more than Oxycontin at the time. And this is the company that's telling us these puberty blockers are safe. The truth is that they haven't done the studies. And trust me, they have all the money to do the studies. But this is where the evil part comes up. They know that the carnage is going to spill over, but they've done some Excel that knows that at the end of this, they are going to have to pay a check, and the check is going to be less than a huge profit. I personally think that this is the biggest medical scandal in modern history. I do think people are going to go to jail for this. A lot of people are going to go to jail. In the UK, Mermaids, the CEO was just resigned. There's a litigation, there's an investigation against Mermaids. I had found out that in Mermaids in 2015, I started talking about it in the news over there, that basically the UK LGBTQ, which is Stonewall. So just think of Stonewall as our LGBTQ. In 2015, they'd won all of their, same-sex. We want all our same sex, all that kind of stuff. And, rightly so. But we did that with the idea of telling everybody that, hey, we're not after kids. We're not after kids. And that's exactly what we've done. We need to change it. But anyways, so in 2015, they didn't have any more donations coming in, right? Because everything was done. There's no more need for donations. So in 2015, they were 3 months away from finalizing a bankruptcy. And the next year, they had a 32% year-over-year growth. Now, the only thing that they did different from 2015 to 2016 was to sign on with Mermaids to promote the medicalization of children. Now, in the UK, medical transition has been banned there, and there's a huge investigation going on. But here in the United States, we're having a hard time. And Jody, I am so sincere with everything that I do. I think that people can understand that, but I'm also opinionated. Sometimes I'm wrong, not very often on this. I'm not, because it's so many puzzle pieces. While I love Moon and I love Missouri and I love all the people there, I do not think that you guys are running these bills the right way. I do not. And so for that, I think you guys are going to have a hard time getting this passed. And here's the reason why. You guys don't have the rainbow there. And I know that you are strict evangelicals. That's fine. But if you want to save these children, you have got to reach out to Gays Against Groomers. You've got to get more transgender people there. You have got to create something where the people that are making these decisions are doing so with understanding that some people in the rainbow don't agree. The truth is that most of us do. We just don't have time to do this kind of stuff. So until you guys get the right people around you, and with Missouri, detransitioners are so important. But I want you to hear me here with lowering your mask or whatever. Just listen to me and know that I am sincere on this. When you have a politician that is a strict evangelical, has been in some, situations where they have been against the rainbow and all that kind of stuff, and Razor has all that information on you guys. When you guys stand with a detransitioner here and a detransitioner here, do you know what people that are not in your segment see, people that are not evangelicals, all they see, listen to me here, is I used to be gay, but God cured me. Now that sentence in itself has made it so that regardless of if you have anything right to say, or if you're coming at it from a love perspective, when an evangelical is sitting with a detransitioner here, the people that listen automatically shut off. So while detransitioners are very, 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 very important, you have to get people neutral first to hear the facts. And how you get people to be neutral, to hear those facts, and then take in the detransitioners, you have to have the rainbow around evangelicals, period. It
would be very beneficial. And I think that, I love Senator Moon, and he's worked really hard. I do believe he's sincere, and he's done the best that he knows how to do, or that he feels like he can do. Our system here is not conducive, just like when you came to testify. Oftentimes we have very little heads up time. But I agree. I think that we need to be developing relationships with a lot of different people, so that when the opportunity comes, when the time comes, I'm sorry if it's getting loud, when the time comes, you're willing to get on a plane, you're willing to come, because we do have relationship and we have built trust, and we are comfortable with each other.
Yeah, it's the reason why I took 60 days off of work. And I'm hoping, I've gotten a couple of donations. I hope I'm gonna be okay. I've got like another 4 weeks and a couple of days where I'm just focusing on that for that reason. So if you guys think my voice is good, please think about, consider a donation. I got to feed my family too, before I go back to work. But yes, you need to have those on the forefront. And there's an organization that you guys need to be in contact with, which is Gays Against Groomers. You will be surprised how much they fight, to the point where they will be the ones getting kicked out, like me. Like, they're so upset that people are using our industry, or who we are, and they're going after kids. They're doing what we exactly promised the evangelicals. We promised that we wouldn't go after kids, and we weren't at that time. It was we just want to be in the room with somebody that we've been with for 50 years, that they haven't seen their parents in 50 years, but they're evangelicals, and they can kick them out of the hospital while he dies. We wanted those kind of rights. We wanted, tax kind of rights, all that kind of stuff. You'll be surprised with the Gays Against Groomers. Most of them, and most gay people, when we had the whole, basically marriage and faith and all that kind of stuff, and Christians were like, well, I don't think that, two same-sex lovers should get married, and God, it's our thing. I think that's your thing. I think that's totally legitimate. I don't think that's, go for it. We just wanted the rights. And I don't think people know that the majority of gays and lesbians and in the rainbow feel that way. And so we're getting to the point where we're getting upset. I mean, let me tell you, Gays Against Groomers, they'll bring trucks, to drive around. They will bring so much press. And it's one of the reasons why I got kicked out, by the way, is trying to get in press, because when they get me in press, things stop. You get me in front of a camera with neutral people, and it's fucking done. Sorry, excuse me. It's done. And they know that. So, so
I would be so grateful if you have any connections there that you could help me get connected. I mean, I can definitely Google and reach out. I'm sure that they are super busy and getting slammed with messages, like we all are.
You'll be surprised how fast they get on. They will bring, seriously, this is, I'm telling you, it lowers people when you have trans, and I have other trans people, and I have other gay people. They'll have these guys that come in stiletto heels that you just think, oh my God, here comes the biggest queer in the entire world. Everybody's rolling their eyes thinking, oh my God, liberal, 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 liberal. He'll do a sachet and walk up and give, testimony that is, what in the hell are you doing medically transitioning kids? And what in the hell do you have the rainbow in the school system? If I talk to children at 5 years old about having sex with men, I would be arrested. But somehow
Right.
you guys seem to think that, you'd be,
Right.
this guy shocks people. And there's so many people like that. You have to have that done. You have to.
Right.
And I can get you those contacts.
Yeah, that would be great.